Welcome to the Everglow Show. I'm Eric McClanahan. I'm joined by author and host of the podcast Can-Am Exchange and Crashing the Political Party, AJ Simmons. What's up, AJ?
Oh, not a lot, man. I am excited tonight because you text me that my favorite New Zealander was coming on, and I was like, how did Eric get Reese Darby on? So I'm excited to meet him. I've had like this really long day. I assume I'm looking at his assistant right now, on this other video of us. So can't wait till Reese is on.
Yeah, no, in New
Well,
Zealand we do all know each other, so like obviously Reese and I are best friends. But no, stuck with me today, Richard. Hi.
uh,
Oh man,
yeah,
if you had told
well,
me it was my favorite New Zealand rapper, I would have known. Specifically, my favorite New Zealand Christian rapper. I would have known exactly who we were having on tonight.
Right. That's Rapture Rose.
well, we do actually have my favorite New Zealander on, and he's the person who came up with the title of this series that we're doing now. Richard Matthews. What's up, Richard?
Hey, no, great to be here. So yeah, it was cool to be able to come up with a couple of names there for your little naming comp, Eric.
Yeah, I'm glad it won out. It's really perfect for it. So I guess starting out, Richard, tell listeners just a little about yourself. Um, what other things other than music, you're passionate about.
Yeah,
What you
cool.
do for work, whatever you want to include.
Sweet. Well, yeah, obviously you know that I live in New Zealand. I was actually born in England in a place called Bristol, but moved to New Zealand when I was 5, so very much consider myself a Kiwi, even though I still have a British passport. Um, I grew up in a place called Tauranga, which is on the coast next to a beautiful surf beach, Mount Maunganui, and then I moved to Auckland to study when I left school. And I got into media. I was always really passionate about music. And so thinking, I was like, hey, there's a career where you get to talk shit and listen to music all day. So obviously, I was really keen to get into radio. Worked in the industry for a number of years, and mostly in the creative team. So making radio ads. And more recently, I'm now moved to the nonprofit sector, and so I work for World Vision as a marketing and business analyst, essentially trialing new fundraising initiatives for the organization and helping transform their marketing technology.
Very nice. Um, and tell people about some of your favorite bands that have come to New Zealand and ones that you want to come to New Zealand. Maybe this can be a pitch.
Yeah, look, it's really tough being this far away from everywhere because bands will come to Australia and then you can do like 5 dates in Australia. If you're coming to New Zealand, you've got an extra 3 hours to your trip and you're playing one show probably. And so to lug all your gear that way, a lot of bands don't make it out. So yeah, I'm fortunate that I have seen many of the bands that we're going to talk about today. So I've had
Nice.
the fortune of seeing Jimmy Eat World twice. I've seen Thrice. I've seen the 1975 a few times. I've seen Death Cab for Cutie. But there's a couple that we'll get to later that I haven't. So
Okay.
Copeland have never been, and actually Amberlin came and said they would return and bring Copeland, and then didn't. So that's part of my beef with Amberlin. And I've also never had the chance to see Further Seems Forever. Um, I look back at some of those sort of early Cornerstone shows with like when Zayo and Me Without You were going nuts, and I just am so incredibly jealous of anyone who got to go to those. We didn't have anything like that here, so yeah, that's my pitch.
All right. Well, hopefully some of the ones will come that you've been hoping will get out there at some point.
Yeah,
Your pitch
hopefully
doesn't
reunite
include
a
like how
few.
pretty it is there, man. Like, come on, come to this beautiful country.
Oh
Like,
right, yeah,
that's
no,
like the number one pitch, right?
of course, yeah, no, it is beautiful here. And there's like much less school shootings and things like that, so I don't know if that's effective for people, but
So, um, me and Richard we go back pretty far. I don't know how long we've been been internet friends, but it feels like it's been probably what, 7 or 8 years, maybe. I don't
I think
know,
something like I think
but
I think I can't remember what year I joined Twitter, but I found you pretty early on, Eric.
yeah,
With a name like an Everglow, we were always going to be besties. Um,
right.
it May being another band that has not come to New Zealand, so May, if you're listening, please.
Yeah. So I guess for listeners, I'm just going to give a rundown of kind of the premise of the series. It's called "Hear You Me," as Richard suggested, based on the Jimmy Eat World song. A person selects their number one favorite artist, three favorite albums, and seven favorite songs. We put their favorite album by their favorite artist on a playlist, as well as their three favorite albums and seven favorite songs, which acts as an ultimate guide to the guest's favorite music. Um, Thus, Hear You Me. For those, well, I already mentioned that Hear You Me is a Jimmy World song. So, proper way to start off this episode with your favorite artist, I guess. To go ahead and tell us who your favorite artist is, Richard.
Yeah, they've actually I just officially supplanted my last favorite artist. I kind of Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while, and it just kind of occurred to me that like I want to listen to Jimmy Eat World more than I want to listen to much else. So I just found myself coming back to them more and more and more. Um, and and so yeah, that's my number one. I think their record speaks for itself. The fact that they've managed to straddle about four or five different waves of emo and still remain incredibly relevant. And even their worst album is still better than most bands' best album. Yeah, it's an incredibly consistent band.
Right. So when did you first discover Jimmy Eat World?
I first discovered Jimmy Eat World. I guess like most people, I heard the middle. I think I saw their music video on TV, and I remember being like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of like in the vein of stuff that I'm into," because it was a little bit pop punk. But I guess more power pop than pop punk. But it had some shared DNA with stuff that I was into. I don't remember being like obsessed with it, but I was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool enough." And then it wasn't until Futures dropped that I was like, oh, this is for me. I think I heard Work. I don't know if that was the first single, but again, I think I saw the music video and I was like, yes, I'm very much in the market for whatever this is. And so then I went and I probably bought Bleed American and Futures at about the same time.
Nice. I know this episode's not about me, but I have a similar story. Like I didn't care for the middle when it first came out. That was the first Jimmy Eat World song I heard. I was like, okay, it's okay. Then Sweetness came out as the next single. I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And then I found Futures like in the discount bin of the used music store that I go to for $2, and I picked it up. I was like, okay, this is a new favorite band for me apparently, and ended up getting all their other stuff. So it's
Yeah, Sweetness Rips. Like that's one of my favorite Jimmy World songs, but I don't think that
yeah,
I heard that at the time. Like I say, there was it was the middle and then it was Work. And I
right, right,
agree.
right,
I also wasn't obsessed with the middle, but I've kind of come around on it. Um,
yeah.
I recorded a cover of it a few years back when we went into lockdown, and I was just
I
like, I don't know,
remember
it just
that.
felt like
Yeah,
everybody needed to know that everything was going to be all right. And I also now, as a father of two daughters, like I think just the message resonates with me really hard where I'm
yeah,
just like, yeah, don't let people write you off. Don't let people tell you who you are. You be true to yourself and do your thing, and doesn't matter what anyone else says. Like that kind of yeah, that
yeah,
hits.
yeah. I agree. Having me having two daughters, like it kind of changes. It changes the message of that song for me. Like when it came out and I was in my mid 20s and stuff, I was like, okay, this is a little bit juvenile maybe. Uh, but it's not, clearly.
No, it's
But
timeless.
yeah. Um so I we've been friends long enough that I've probably we've probably talked about this subject a lot of your favorite artists, and I know a year or so ago, as you said, you just came around to Jimmy Eat World, calling them your favorite. I feel like it was the 1975 that was your favorite a year or two ago, which we'll talk more about them. Um, so now that Jimmy Eat World are your favorite, do you feel that they are irreplaceable as your favorite artist?
Absolutely not. Like
Or okay,
I'm a person who's very open to to change, to new experiences. And so yeah, the spot's open for contention. Like, feel free to drop
okay,
a mind-blowing masterpiece of a record, any band out there, and and stake your claim for the number one spot. So
all right.
yeah.
I kind of
But yeah, I'd
I
probably
felt.
change. There you go,
Go
you
ahead.
go.
I was just gonna say
Okay.
I felt that that would probably be the case for you, just knowing, kind of your past with this question that I ask people obsessively. So yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
It was probably like I could probably say like when I was in high school, kind of 14, 15 around, so I was probably a toss up between MXPX and Jars of Clay. Then last year of high school it was POD, and then it would have been Blindside, and then Under Oath, and then Thrice, and then the 1975, and now Jimmy World. Yeah.
Nice. So who would you say are your honorable mentions for your favorite artists right now? Would it be most of the ones you just named, or is there anybody else who's never been your favorite who's kind of you could see them they're hanging around there?
Yeah, so obviously Jimmy will just supplanted the 1975, who supplanted Thrice. So all three of
Mm-hmm.
those bands are in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the ones that we've already mentioned, I'd say Copeland are probably there or thereabouts. Like they've they've released pretty consistently good albums over the course of their career. So yeah, I think they're in the mix.
Okay. Okay. Um, AJ, did you have anything you want to add before we get to his album choice?
No, I'm from Arizona, so I sort of feel the need to defend the middle a bit because it's played at like everything, like in the midst of at like concerts. It'll be a country concert there, a metal concert, whatever. The middle will play as like the music between the bands, and it's hilarious because it is like a sleeper agent code being programmed to anybody that grows up out there, grew up out there when I did, that like, oh yeah, we all just kind of bop along to the middle. So
Hmm.
got to defend that a little bit. And then Copeland is great. We just saw Copeland live, Eric and
Yep.
I and Kylan. And it was my first time seeing them. The joke was that like the
Same.
previous two times I was going to see them, there were other concerts that night, and my wife overrode me on seeing Copeland. And so finally got to see them live, and they were great. So I hope that Amberlin keeps their promise to you and brings Copeland to New Zealand. I think that Copeland has deserves to go to New Zealand and see it in
Yeah,
person. So
I think so too. You'll love it, guys. Please come.
So, I think you alluded to it, but what album did you choose to put on your Hear You Me playlist from Jimmy Eat World?
I chose Futures. Um, I think this album is like it has, everything that made Bleed American great, the uplifting power pop stuff, but it's just a little moodier, a little darker. Um, and yeah, I just think it's like there's no weak song on it whatsoever. Um, I saw Jimmy Eat World perform this in its entirety on an anniversary tour. And it was, yeah, so good.
Same. I saw the 10th was it the 10th anniversary tour. That was the one that I saw them play.
I
Futures.
couldn't say maybe. I who can remember
Yeah.
now? I'm
All
getting
right.
old.
um, so I don't know if you thought this hard about it, but would Futures be your favorite album of all time?
It's up there. I think
Okay.
maybe the next album that we talk about might have a
Okay.
bigger claim to that. But
Okay.
it's certainly in consideration. Yeah.
Okay. So for somebody who doesn't know, what's the one song that you would recommend somebody to listen to from Futures?
I mean, it probably depends on the person and what they're into. Um,
Right.
23 is probably my favorite on the album, but because it's such a long song and quite sprawling and building, like it's probably not for everyone. Um,
Right.
so maybe if I had to just recommend a song off the bat, I'd say either listen to Work, because that was the single that got me into it, or Kill, which is also probably a top 10 track for me.
Mhm.
You haven't seen my episode yet, but Kill was one of the songs I picked, and Futures just I almost put Futures as one of my albums. But I did pick Kill as one of my
Kill's so good.
songs. It is so good. Yes, it is great. But yeah, I came down to Work and Kill for me. I was like, I gotta have a Jimmy Eat World song if I don't have this album on there. And I went with Kill Pain as well, of course. And Night Drive is another one I really dig on this album. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I almost so
AJ,
like
did,
I was gonna
sorry.
say, like, how you've asked me to do my favorite albums and then you asked for my seven favorite songs. I was almost gonna put another Jimmy Eat World song on my seven favorite songs because I was like, how can I talk about Jimmy Eat World and not talk about Dizzy? Because I love Dizzy. I
Yes,
don't
thank
know.
you. Yes,
So
Dizzy
good.
is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I keep
AJ, did we both have Futures on our 2000s list that we did? I feel like we.
I think
I know
so.
it had to be.
It's the top album for me for the year that it came
Yeah.
out. It's got to be one of the top ones for the 2000s. Let me look at my list real quick because I have that on my phone. It's got to be up
Yeah.
there, right?
I know it had to be at least top 15 for me, but I can't remember if it made my top
Yeah,
10 or
it is
not.
my overall number one album for the 2000s. I wasn't sure if it was gonna be that or 59 Sound.
good
Um,
choice. I would have gone along with either. Great choices.
but yes, so Futures is my favorite album of the 2000s.
Nice.
I
All
love
right,
how
let's go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing I love is in the lyrics is there's a couple of like very specific things. I think specificity in lyrics can be really cool. There's a lot of place for general stuff that anyone can connect to, but there's things like as the train approaches Gare du Nord, which is the train station in Paris, and so like just I feel like they wrote a lot of this album while they were in Europe because there's another thing where he says you should see the canals are freezing in another song, and so I'm just like it feels like there's some European influence in this album, and then when you've been there and you've seen all those places, you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. I don't know.
Yeah. I like to look up the rate your music stats on the albums that people choose. So I just looked up Futures and it has been it's been pushing upward on the rate your music charts because it did not used to be in the top 10,000 overall, but it is currently at number 9,116 and number 151 for the year 2004. Has a 3.62 average out of 3,000 plus ratings.
That's
So
not bad.
people are, yeah, I think people who are kind of outside that, absolute punk scene that we all probably, came up in. I think maybe it's starting to catch on with some people kind of who didn't grow up in that world. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I think I definitely like
Um,
whenever somebody asks like, "What's your favorite Jimmy Eat World album?" It used to be that people would say Clarity and
mhm.
or Bleed American, and I feel like more recent, I'm seeing more and more people say Futures
I
whenever
agree with
someone
that.
asks
Yeah,
that question online.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, that checks out.
No disrespect to
All right.
Clarity, of course, which is also incredible.
Right. Right. Well, let's get to your three other, favorite albums that you chose for your playlist. What's the first one up?
Visu by Thrice. Do you want me to list them all
Okay.
first and then talk about each, or do you want me to talk about them one at a time?
Uh, we'll just go one by one, I think.
Okay.
So what is it that's so special to you about Visu?
Gosh, this album just came at exactly the right time in my life. It was exactly what I wanted to when it dropped. Um, I would say like Thrice evolved their sound almost exactly in line with where my tastes were going. It was like they had a band meeting. They were like, "Hey guys, what's Richard into at the moment? I think we should write something like that." And so yeah, just the evolution over time really worked for me. And I think when Visu dropped, I don't even think I was aware that there was a new Thrice album out. I saw it in the record store, Real Groovy is our local record store in Auckland, and I just was like, wow, new Thrice album, cool. Like, and I took it to the listening post and I popped it in and immediately knew it was something special. It's just I don't think I'd heard anything like it at the time. That kind of post hardcore slash experimental rock, like there's just so much going on, and I just think it all works. And I think the other thing about this album, or Thrice as a band in general, is that they're so good at making an album sound like the lyrics, like the lyrical themes and the musical arrangements are so like cohesively aligned. Um, and I don't think they started it on this album. Like if you listen to the lead in Artist in the Ambulance, it sounds like a siren. But things like in Red Sky, the guitar sounds like the beeping of a sonar. In like The Earth Will Shake, they've got that stomp prison gang chant thing going on. And it all works. Like in the hands of less capable musicians, it could be cheesy, but they just do it so tastefully that it just works. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when this album first came out, I got into Thrice on the Artist in the Ambulance, and it was pretty huge for me. It really like okay, I was like, okay, post-hardcore is one of my favorite genres now. I'm going to, digest everything in this genre that's coming out. So I was eagerly anticipating Visu when it came out. And I remember seeing it described as a mix of OK Computer and White Pony. And I still think about that when I listen to it. I think that's pretty good, you know?
Yeah, that kind of works. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, HJ, are you a fan of this album?
I mean, I don't know if I'm familiar enough with this. The Artist in the Ambulance album hasn't, or like our discussion of that, I don't think is out yet. So, um, the people I knew that liked Thrice were not people I liked. So by proxy, I didn't listen to Thrice
Okay.
until their bassist joined Angels and Airwaves, and I texted the one person that I knew that liked Thrice, and he was like, "Start with I think it was this album, if I remember correctly," and I was more focused on the bass work of it, which is great. But I didn't really go back and revisit. It's only been the past like couple of years that I've revisited Thrice a bit, but not a ton. So it's not that I like or dislike this album. I'm just not familiar enough with it, or wasn't. I did listen to this several times since I got your your list, Richard, and there's several songs I like on it. So, but I haven't had an excuse to do a deep dive on them and listen to this. I did like listen to Artist in the Ambulance and like that. I think I referred to it again since you haven't heard that episode. Like you were talking about the first song on there. I did like the Kool-Aid Man, like oh yeah, when it started because I was like I liked that beginning. And there's several songs. I did know um the first track off of here, off of this album, because I used to watch Fuse and they played it. It was the Army of Indivisible or whatever it is. The Sorry, I'm getting that wrong.
Image of the Invisible.
And there we go. Yes, that was on Fuse quite a bit. I remember that
Yeah.
back in the day as a music channel here that played a lot of like alternative stuff that Kylan and I weirdly have bonded over. It was not as popular as like MTV here, but it's because they played like super obscure stuff. But I did know
Mhm.
that song live back in 20 years ago, right? This came out in 2005.
Right.
So
Well,
no, I just not familiar enough to have an opinion on it. But like I said, there's several songs from listening to it this week that I was like, oh yeah, I like this.
right. Um, so Richard, would you say that this album is you connect with it more for nostalgic reasons or relational reasons or personal reasons or some combination?
I mean, I think everything's kind of a combination of all of those things. Maybe this is one of the things the one of the artists that I truly discovered by myself. I think I first heard Thrice on our Christian radio station New Zealand's called Life FM. And they used to have a hardcore punk, emo, etc. show on a Tuesday evening called the Underground Show. And they played Deadbolt one day, and I was like, "This is awesome! What is this?" And so then I downloaded it the next day, probably off Kazaa or LimeWire or whatever we were using at the time. And so then I downloaded a bunch of songs, and um, and then I bought both Artist and Illusion of Safety on the same day, and yeah, that was just it was just cool to have something that felt like truly my own. Um,
Right.
yeah,
So if you were going to recommend one song from this album to someone who's not familiar, what would you recommend?
I think the Earth Will Shake is my favorite song off this album. I think it does the quiet, loud thing really, really well. Um, yeah.
Okay.
Um, One of my favorite things to do actually with this album is, you know how the next album was the four EPs, the Alchemy Index, where they had
Right.
Earth, Air, Water, and Fire. I
Hmm.
like to think about like if each of the songs on Visu was going to be one of the elements, what would it be? And
Oh,
so
interesting.
obviously the Earth Will Shake is an Earth song. Red Sky is a water song, Atlantic's a water song. Um, you know, Hold Fast Hope is a fire song. Between the End and Where We Lie is an air song. So I just think I just, they were already kind of going in that direction before they got there. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I've not considered that, but you're right. They do kind of fit into those. Um, so rate your music score on this has it as the 115th top album of 2005, 7,001 overall, 3.65 out of 5 from 3,000 plus rating. So really good on that. Anything in the top 10,000 on there is, you know, considered, it's noted that it's in the top 10,000. So that's a good thing, obviously, even though it may sound like if an album's the 10,000th best album of all time, that may not sound too good, but it really is quite good in the big scheme of things. But um, all right, let's go to your next pick for album.
yeah, so I picked A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships by the 1975, released in 2018.
And what is it about this album that's connects with you so much?
Um, you mentioned OK Computer earlier.
Yeah.
And when this album dropped, people said it was like a millennial version of OK Computer. And I was like, I'm a 1975 fan, but that feels a bit, I don't know, like, are you stretching there? And then I listened to it and I was like, oh, actually, that kind of makes sense, right down to the robot voice. Um, I think it felt very like poignant for 2018, like an album very much for the times. Um, some people complained that the 1975 are too all over the place. Like if you listen to this album, they wear their influences very much on their sleeve. So they've got a lot of 80s influences, obviously. But they update them, of course, for the modern era. But on this album, there's some songs that sound like they could be New Order songs, some songs sound like they could be Phil Collins songs, and some songs sound like they could be Oasis songs, and some songs, there's like a jazz standard on there. We're kind of all over the place. Um, and on their next album, Notes on a Conditional Form, I think it was too all over the place and wasn't cohesive enough. But I think on this album, given the subject matter about like, trying to navigate the online world and, the feeling of disconnection when we've got all of these things competing for our attention, and sort of how bite-sized like, culture had become in terms of like, there's one song that's just like a list of news headlines and quotes and things. Um, it feels like the the style matches the thematic material for me. And so I like the way that this album takes you on a journey. Um, and I think I Always Want to Die Sometimes is the best Oasis song.
I can see that. AJ, what did you think when you listened to this album? Were you new to this, or is this one you've heard
Yeah, I've
before?
never listened to a whole album from the 1975, just kind of like the big singles or the ones that people mention on like Twitter and stuff like that. So this is my first time going through an album of theirs. But yeah, I listened to it a couple times this week in preparation. And yeah, but that one of my takeaways was like it is all over the place, but I didn't necessarily know if that was a bad thing. With my taste,
Yeah.
somebody kind of bouncing around places, I'm like, yeah, that works. So
Mhm. I don't know if Richard remembers, but I tried with this album back in the day, and it didn't quite connect for me. I think I respect them, but it's just not something I want to listen to uh, over and over. I guess maybe I don't know. I I respect them more than I enjoy listening to them, if that makes sense. But that's just my own personal issue. What song, Richard, do I need to go back and listen to again? And
Well, I don't think
it's
the
going to make it all connect.
1975 I don't think the 1975 are a song band. I think they're an album band.
Okay.
Like I don't think my favorite 1975 songs would make my like top 10 list of favorite songs. But
Okay.
as an album, they totally work. Um, my favorite 1975 song isn't on this album. It's Falling for
Okay.
You, which is off their EP that they released before their debut, um, which I think you might like because you
Okay.
like that sort of M83 type thing, don't
Oh
you?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think you might dig it.
I do like what is it? Somebody else? Was that um
Yeah,
the big
yeah, that
hit
was
that they had off? Yeah. I do like
yeah,
that song.
that's off this album.
Yeah.
Um, my favorite is probably Give Yourself a Try. Um,
Yeah.
it just feels like the millennial anthem to me.
funny enough,
Okay.
that's my favorite song on this album. That's the song on I think my second listen. I was like, what is this one called? I like this one. So there's that.
Nice. All right, let's what's your third album for your playlist?
Third album is Transatlanticism by Death Cab for Cutie.
All right. What is it about that album that's so special to you?
Gosh, that's hard to say. It's one of those albums where you regularly ask Eric, what's an album that you would give 5 stars out of five to? And this is one that always comes to my mind first. There doesn't feel like there's anything out of place on this album. Um, it's just, yeah, really good. Like, I think there was something in the water for Ben Gibbard at this time because he, released the Postal Service on, like, was the same year, I think, even.
Yeah,
But
yes,
just
So,
yeah, or near within a year of each other. Because that's one of my favorite albums of all time is the Postal Service. Give up.
Yeah. So just he was just in a rich vein of songwriting form. And I think the lyrics are great. Um, yeah, I can't find anything wrong with it. But also it's very nostalgic for me. I think I was listening to this a lot when I was dating my wife. So
mhm.
it takes me back to that time, even though it's not a very falling in love kind of an album. It still it still takes me back there. So yeah,
All right. I know Kylan has a tattoo of some of the lyrics from this album on him,
Yep.
but I can't remember what it is. Do you, AJ?
Yeah. It's from Transatlanticism. Like, I need you so much closer.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a
actually,
big
and
one for Kylan too.
that song is, I think my that would make my top 20 songs of all time. Um,
Nice.
It's in
and
my top
uh,
100.
one of my happiest moments of ever was we saw Death Cab for Cutie live, and as they were playing that song, like I was like had my wife in my arms, and I just felt so like just such an immense sense of joy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Seeing something that I love brought to life with the person that I love.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
doesn't get better than that.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic,
for
man.
sure.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Was this
Um,
your intro to Death Cab?
Um, I think again, this is coming. I do this a lot, it seems. I bought Plans and Transatlanticism at the same time.
Okay.
I think a friend introduced me to them. They were playing maybe a mix of songs in the car, and I was like, "This is all great. I'm gonna go buy their albums." So, so I did.
Nice.
Yeah, but
I
this
think
one's like they're both like very close to perfect, and
Hmm.
this one I think just has a bit more staying power for me than Plans.
I think when we did our 2000s episode, I think AJ and Kylan both had plans in their top 10, and I had it as an honorable mention. So that collectively, that would have been our favorite album of the 2000s, I think. Um, but Transatlanticism's certainly not far behind.
Yeah,
It is their highest rated album on Rate Your Music,
that
uh,
tracks.
3.72 from 14,000 plus ratings. It's number 41 for 2003 and 2,811 overall. So pretty good.
I also love
Um,
that this album has like Death Cab goes punk rock with the sound of settling. It is such a
oh
strange
yeah.
song for Death Cab, but it is one of my favorite songs for that reason of like it is so very different for them. I mean it clocks in at like just over 2 minutes if I remember right.
Yeah, yeah, 2 minutes,
And
12 seconds.
yeah, it's such a good track that just you're like, hold on, that's from Death Cab for Cutie. And it just there's so many great tracks on this one, but that is that
Yeah.
and Transatlanticism are two of my favorites from them. With that, just like I said, standing out to me, especially when this came out. I was like, yeah, that is a great track, and I'm very confused that it's Death Cab.
And then, of course,
Yeah.
every New Year's Day, you got to listen to the New Year.
Oh,
Yes.
So
absolutely.
that's a
Yeah.
big one.
My
It
with
is
the sound of settling, my brother-in-law used to say that it starts, I got a hunger. He always thought it was I got a Honda, and he was like, why are you bragging about your car? Like, and it kind of makes sense that the Honda was turning his stomach into knots. Like, I guess it was someone who was driving it in a erratic
yeah.
fashion. Like,
Hey, he's just
yeah,
showing off how sensible he is, and that's a part of settling, that you make sensible decisions like buying Hondas.
yeah,
See, it tracks. It makes sense.
yeah.
It it
I
has
really like we look like
also
giants. It's all.
it has also transformed my thinking on glove compartments, and that now I can't open my glove compartment of my car without thinking that
Thinking of
it's
thinking of Death Cab.
inaccurately named.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It actually it inspired an ad I wrote back in my media days as well. I wrote an ad for a place called Saint Pierre's Sushi. So it was a place that had a French name for a Japanese product, and I was like, that's weird. So I was like, so I wrote a campaign about things that were named weirdly, and I've had to mention the glove compartment as part of that, of course.
It's awesome.
Nice. Love it. Were there any albums that you wanted to include, but there's only so many spaces? There any honorable mentions for you?
Yeah, slowly going the way of the Buffalo by MXPX was like in consideration for me. Um, what else? Define the Great Lion by Under Oath. Um, yeah, can't remember what else. I struggled more with songs than albums, to be honest.
Okay.
That was where I
Well,
had a million things that I could have put.
yeah, like I said, there's only a billion, billions of options there.
And there were
So
so many strategies that you could take as well. Like, do you just go for your absolute favorites? Do you go for stuff that represents the variety of things that you like? Or, do you
right.
go for your, something that tells a story about how your tastes evolved over time? I was like, man, there's so many different paths I could go down here.
Yeah, I know it can be a little
So
overwhelming, right? I went well, like I
Mm.
call it like the buffet way of like this is just kind of a sample of
Yeah,
my music tastes. It's not necessarily my favorite albums of all time or whatever favorite songs of all time, but it gives you a sense of the stuff
yeah.
that I like. So
The one other one that I wanted to put and didn't was High Violet by The National. I love that
Mhm.
album. So that's just one for Kylan
Yeah.
because I know he's not here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he would have loved to discuss some of these. Um, well, so which method for songs did you end up taking?
I think I just went for the what I thought was truly my favorite. Like I
Okay.
put a bunch of songs in a playlist and then just was like I had to just be honest because there were some things that I thought like I want to put this because it's important to me and but it also it has cred. Like I wanted to put some cred picks in there and then I was like, look, if I'm honest, what do I actually come back to more and more and more? It's
Right.
these. What am
Okay.
I going to cry to? Um,
Right, right, right.
True.
Um, so I guess if you want to just tell us each song and just a little bit why you chose each of them.
Yeah. My first song is Snowbirds and Townies by Further Seems Forever. And as you know, Eric, I'm team Jason Gleason when it comes to Further
Yeah.
Seems Forever vocalists. But this song was probably the first Further Seems Forever song that I heard. And I am such a sucker for a 6/8 jam. Um, I don't know what it is. Like I just noticed a few years back, there was like, what all of these songs that I love are in 6/8. What's it? What's up with that? Like I just didn't even realize it until, and then I made a playlist of all my favorite 6/8 songs. But
Oh,
um,
nice.
yeah, it's just something about it that works for me. That kind of lilting sort of rhythm. Um, and
Mhm.
the other thing that I love about this song is it just sounds like it's just yearning encapsulated. Um, yeah,
Mhm.
Chris Carrabba, man,
Yeah.
he can make a boy feel. And I
Yeah,
think that's
AJ.
so that's the number one thing for me with music is like, does it move me? So
Mhm.
the stuff that I like is not always the most technically brilliant or whatever. It's like, does this tug at my heartstrings? And so I guess the raw kind of vocal delivery, um, just hard on sleeve stuff, I love that.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
can
I'm such
safely
an
say that this is my favorite Further Seems Forever song.
Oh,
100% without, right?
wow.
The joke of that is I only know this album by them because of this show. So and I only spoke highly of this song and like one other off of that album because I'm not a fan of early Chris Carrabba's vocals. So
You
I think
should,
I think you
AJ.
made the comment that I think you might have made the comment, Eric, that I would have liked I think the person that you mentioned, Richard's vocals better.
Yeah, Jason
Like
Gleason.
I have less of an issue with the music or even the lyrics on this. It comes down to the vocals, and the vocals on this are probably his best performance or most tolerable performance on this album. It's just early Chris Cornell, but not a fan of his vocals. But so yeah, I can safely say 100% this is my favorite Further Seems Forever song. So look at that, we overlap.
Yeah, look, and I know it's not for everyone, but it is for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
fair enough, man.
but I think the testament to how good a band Fearless Seems Forever are is the fact that they had three different vocalists and still managed to retain some sort of core identity of who they were. And
Hmm.
each of those three albums is like equally good. Like I don't like if you pick any one of The Moon Is Down, How to Start a Fire, or Hide Nothing as your favorite Feather Seems Forever album, I'm like, yeah, that's valid. They're all good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And mine has changed over time. It was Hide Nothing for the longest time was my favorite, and just recently, The Moon Is Down has kind of taken over it for some reason. But
But you
yeah,
haven't
AJ, I
ever
think you would
chosen.
like How to Start a Fire. What?
So you got to graduate to How to Start a Fire then, Eric, because
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
best one. And yeah,
That's probably that. I'm sure that'll probably happen at some point.
All right, I
Uh,
will. I'm gonna go listen to that after this. Maybe you can save this band for me, Richard, by finding
yeah.
that album.
Here's why I love that album the best is because I think like Chris Carrabba and John is a bunch, is his surname?
yeah, a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, they could both do the sort of like fragile, delicate kind of stuff really well. and I think Jason can too. But the difference with Jason is he can also let loose and sort of give the band a bit more of this punk sort of edge that I don't think the other two had in them. So I just think there was more kind of diversity in how they felt as a band. And because I was like, a bit of a punk kid at that time, that resonated with me more.
Right. All right. What's your next song?
My next song is I Can Make You Feel Young Again by Copeland. This is off Exora. And yeah, I just think this is a masterpiece of a song. I think in general, I prefer You Are My Sunshine as my favorite Copeland album. But this song, man, it's so good.
It is so good. This either this or the Sleep demo is my favorite Copeland song, but I have this in my top 100 of all time, so I think it's this one.
Yeah.
But
I,
yeah,
I don't think I've heard the demo of Sleep, but Sleep's a great song.
yeah. Me and AJ were talking about it. It's a little bit. Uh, it's just got a different feel to it than the album version. I would say it's what did we say about it, AJ? I can't even remember. It's got
We talk about so much different music. I think like more
yeah,
raw, kind of more raw, less
yeah,
polished sound to it. More emotion, I think, comes through because of that.
Mhm.
yeah.
So,
I almost
But yeah,
chose on the safest ledge for my favorite Copeland song, but I ended up going with
mm,
this one. But just on the safest ledge, another thing I'm a sucker for, other than 6/8, is like an ascending melody.
mhm.
So that melody and the chorus, were like I really fuck with that.
mm.
Yeah.
All right. What's your next song?
Next song is "Cigarettes and Saints" by the Wonder Years. Um, this song takes you on a journey, man. Like you almost go through all of the stages of grief as you listen to this song. Like it starts out very like soft and sad, um, and then it gets to the point where we're talking about like who's to blame. So we're pointing fingers, and then it gets to this point at the end where it's really defiant, you know. And it's like he uses the death of somebody that he loves to talk about systemic injustices that lead to this sort of death in the first place. Like it's man, it's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah, this
I just
was
find by the time it gets to like you can't have my brothers, you can't have my friends, you can't have me. I'm just like screaming along and like yeah, it gets me.
this was the only song on your whole playlist that I was not familiar with at all. Like I know the Wonder Years. I've seen them live. They're great live, but I've not listened to all of their albums, so I didn't know the song, but it is certainly a good one.
And this is
What's your
this
next
is a
song?
one there's a
Oh,
one-two
sorry.
punch in songs about death. Because I'm going from Cigarettes and Saints to Funeral by Phoebe Bridges. So yeah, it's a very sad time for us here.
But they're both great songs, man. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know I was oh, let me phrase that. I knew the Wonders Years and I was indifferent to them until I saw them live like 6 months ago and I did a run on their discography and funny enough, Cigarettes and Saints is also and there's no joke to this. Like genuinely I did a dive on their music and it was one of my favorite songs from them.
You have good
Um
taste in favorite songs, actually.
apparently, man.
That's why we're
Apparently.
friends.
There you go. And then yes, Phoebe Bridgers' Funeral, man. So what is it about this song that you like?
And I'm just a sucker for a sad girl bop.
You, me, and
I
Kylan, man, we got to have a show about that. I think.
yeah. Um, Lyrically, I think it's brilliant. And again, it just makes me feel. Um, I don't think I've I don't think I've lost many people close to me personally, but I love songs about death. I don't know what it says. And I mean, I'm mostly a really happy guy. I'm quite optimistic, and maybe that's why I love songs that can take me to another place where I feel really sad and depressed. Like I don't know, just the
Mhm.
power of music to do that to you is something that will always be really meaningful to me. And Phoebe just I really connect with her vocal performances, like of that Boy Genius. I think Kylan was saying the other day, like he thinks that you know, well, I can't remember who he said was the best artist. Neil was the best songwriter. I think he said Lucy was the best songwriter. But like Phoebe has the best vocal performances, and I think that's always something that's really connected with me. Mostly, I mean, I was the lead singer of my band in high school. I still can only sing melody when I play in the church band, which is like annoying for the other vocalists. But um, yeah.
All right. What's your next song?
The next song is "Existentialism on Prom Night" by Straylight Run. Um, this song is so good.
So
Um,
good.
when I was in my second year of university, I was flirting with a girl who played the piano, and we learnt a couple of songs together. So she would play her piano, I'd play my guitar, and we would both sing. And we learnt like "Let It All Out" by Relient K. We
Mm.
learnt "The Ocean" by May, and we learnt this one. And
It's
this is genuinely hard to play on the piano. Like you're stretching
Mhm.
your fingers right across to try and play that melody line. And yeah, it's a really well composed piece of music, I think. Um,
This is the last
Mhm.
song I can say on this list, but this is my favorite Straylight Run song, and this just missed being in my list because I love this song. It's obviously the like first song I think I heard about or heard from Straylight Run and instantly was sold. I love when he sings out of key about singing out of key. Like that is so clever. I remember the first time I caught that and was like, "Oh, that's just like golf clap. That is good stuff right there. That you do that. That is fantastic."
Yeah.
I
What's your
think
next song?
the next song is "In Regards to Myself" by Under Oath.
Mhm.
So I just think I had to put some metalcore on here, and I was kind of torn between going with this, "Memphis Will Be Laid to Waste" or "Death to Traitors."
Mm.
Were my sort of three that I was mostly tossing up between. Ultimately, I went with this one because I think it meant more to me at the time. Um, this was like a huge album for me in 2006. And this song in particular, that riff at the start is so tasty. And I think on this album, they perfected whatever it is that they do. The Spencer was now like a full part of the band, and he just like owned the vocal performance in the way that his like
Mm.
screams and singing contrasted with what Aaron was doing. It just all worked. So yeah, um, play the song and I will throw down in the mosh pit.
All three of those metalcore songs you mentioned are like top-notch favorites of mine as well. So you couldn't have gone wrong with any of those. But yeah, I dig
You
this
would have picked
choice.
you would have picked Death to Traders, I think, Eric, would you?
I would have. Memphis is pretty close too, but yeah, I think that the Traders would probably squeak it out there. But yeah,
Yeah. If I was
I'll
coming on the show to suck up to you, I would have included that one. But I had to be honest, I had to be true to myself.
I appreciate that. That's what it's about. Um, all right. So, what is your final song?
Our final song is "Oh My God" by Jars of Clay. Jars of Clay are probably the only remnant from like 90s CCM that I still really, really like. Um, my favorite album of theirs is Much Afraid, but this song, I think I first discovered this in a live setting. I think they played this live and I was like, what is this? Um,
Mhm.
which is always like a cool feeling.
Oh yeah.
Most of the time, you're there to hear songs that you know and love already, and half of liking a song is knowing a song. But
Mhm.
when a band plays a song that you haven't heard and it catches your attention, there's something really special about that. Um, but yeah, again, this is a song that has a couple of different movements in it, um, and um, I think lyrically, like it's quite poignant. Like
Mm.
this song really deals with a lot of like the hard stuff that goes on in the world. and where is God in that, and just so much pain and suffering, and the injustice of poverty, um, and just that that guttural reaction of crying out to God, where are you in all of this? And
Mhm.
like as my faith has evolved over time, like that's remained, I guess, a pretty key question. It's part of why I work in non-profit today, doing what I do. Um, and I think at around about this time, Jars of Clay were working with a charity called Bloodwater Mission, where they were
Mhm.
funding the building of wells in Africa. And I
Mhm.
really connected with that. And so, now working through World Vision and being able to do similar sort of stuff, is really meaningful to me. Um, so yeah,
That's
this
awesome.
song hits.
Yeah. Um, well, were there any other songs that, just missed that you didn't already mention that you want
How
to
long have you
shout
got?
out? Give us, 10 or
Give us
less.
five. Give us five. Give us five
Five will
solid
work.
ones.
Yeah,
Oh
five will work.
gosh, okay. So I wanted to put a Beach Boys song on,
Which one?
and God Only Knows would
Yes.
probably have been my
Mm.
choice.
There you go. Best Beach Boys song, hands down.
Yeah, I could have put a few, but that was probably one that really sticks for me. I wanted to put an MXPX song on, and I think Doing Time really encapsulates everything that MXPX do well. It's like, I think it's less than 2 minutes, and they get through like three verses and choruses and a bridge. Like, it's insane. But yeah, that one. I thought about putting um like a pop song on here, and so I was like, because I wanted to sort of show that I like pop music as well,
Yeah.
and Katy Perry's Teenage Dream, I think for me is like the perfect pop song. I will never not sing along with that. And then I thought about putting some hip hop on here, maybe some Jurassic 5 or Kanye West. Um, and then we had like Me Without You, Fall Out Boy, Gaslight Anthem. There was lots of stuff that I could have put. Yeah.
You mentioned Gaslight Anthem.
Right.
I once saw Brian Fallon with his solo backing band do Teenage Dream. And he
Oh
told the
wow.
story that his mom thought it was one of his songs when she saw it live. Like the first time he played it live was at a show in Jersey that she was at. And she was like, I love that new song. He's like, what? What new song? And it was Teenage Dream. It was a fantastic cover live. Like I started like singing because I know that song. I was like, wait, what? What is this? Like, it took me probably 15 seconds into the song to realize that it wasn't a like Gaslight Anthem or Brian Fallon song, but I knew it. It's like I saw Bayside do Mr. Brightside, and it had the same reaction.
Oh,
There was like this delayed reaction where I was like, oh wait, this isn't one of their songs, but it's fantastic, and there are videos on YouTube
okay.
of Brian
I'll go
Fallon
check that out.
doing Teenage Dream, and so yes, and his mom thought that that was a song he wrote.
Very cool.
Mr. Brightside is like one song that will just get like, no matter where you are, the white people will go crazy.
Have you all seen the SNL sketch for Man Park, where it's
Yeah,
like a
I
dog
think I
park, but
have.
it's for
Yeah.
men? Yeah, and several men are there gathered around singing "Mr. Brightside" in the Man Park. It's pretty funny.
There's worse ways to
Um,
spend some time.
Yeah.
yeah.
The
uh,
other two artists
Go
that
ahead.
I almost put on here that I wanted to for creative reasons, and because a lot of the bands that I like, I think owe a lot to these artists, are the Smiths and the Cure. And I know Eric would have liked that.
The
But
Smiths got
again,
discussed
they're
on my
just
episode. We talked
yeah.
Queen is Dead on my episode.
Mhm. Very nice. We will link Richard's playlist in the description of the videos and everything, so that make that easy for you to find. Um, Richard, tell people, I guess, where they can find you online if you'd like to be found online.
Yeah, I mean, probably Twitter's the best. I know Elon tried to make it X, but I will always call it Twitter. You can
Same.
find
Mhm.
me at MC Dragon. MC is EMCEE. That's just one of my many rap names.
Yeah, Richard's a good follow on Twitter.
I'm gonna see
So I
if
just
Kylan
want
can
to
drop in one
say,
of your rap songs at either like the beginning of this episode or the end. I'm kidding.
Please,
I wouldn't.
please,
I would.
please
I would
don't.
say I'm not gonna actually do that. No, but they're great. They bring a smile. Like I will randomly listen to them because they do genuinely like make me smile. They're just
they are
they're
good.
fun. They're funny. Like
Yeah,
it's just it's a fun thing to listen to.
yeah,
It was
definitely.
it was it was a certain time. I was 18, you know, just
I I'm thankful the music I made when I was like 17 and 18 is largely not accessible.
Kylan's been digging all of his out and sending
He
them to
has
us,
and
so
sending them to us. It's
that's been
great.
fun. Yeah.
oh yeah, I'd love to
uh,
hear some of that.
uh, yeah, just name a genre. He's covered it pretty much.
Yeah,
He's
it's
he's
wild.
dabbled in everything. Um, uh, just want to mention the Patreon for anybody who would like to join the Patreon, patreon.com/ineverglow. Shout out to WoW tier patrons Phil Stussison and Tim Rogers, and Seltzer tier patron Michael Porter. That about covers it for today. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and that would really help us out. And I guess that's all we got this time. So until next time, Amy Grant.
Hear me, Grant.
All right. Thanks, Richard.